what's good, cannabis investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from May 20th to the 26th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of these videos as a time capsule. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the US cannabis industry, identify top US MSOs that you keep seeing pop up that you think will be worth more in the future than they are now based on their current market caps, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. And we start with another domino that was expected based on the news we got last week, and the proposed rule by the DEA was officially filed on Tuesday, May 21st. While the comment period is open until July 22nd, 2024, so plenty of time to leave a comment, all you have to do is click submit a formal comment. It'll take you to regulations.gov, and so share this link with whoever, have them leave a comment. You can even attach files, so we'll try and find that 252-page HHS report admitting that cannabis is science. We can add that in here. How do they say no to that? Right? And so just highlighting that after the first 4 days, we've got 5,298 comments already, which is very bullish. We'll go through a breakdown in a moment, but a majority of them are pro-cannabis, which is to be expected since we're following the science. But just to highlight a historic day for cannabis in the States, especially for the industry. It's about time the discrimination ends, and this is, again, just the next domino to get to a point where we lessen the discrimination. Obviously, we want outright descheduling, but we can't have everything because some people suck. But good thing is, within 24 hours, 784 comments already. And so people are thirsty to share their views on this, obviously, and I love this comment, Bullshark. It's a YouTube comment section. Where are the mods? And I'm going to go through the comments later today, as I haven't done that, but I imagine a lot of them are quite entertaining. And so from Dennis Rudev, thank you for sharing this from Benzinga. So take it with a grain of salt, but it seems like they've already analyzed the 4,000 or so comments from the first week. And apparently 71.1% support the DEA's proposal, leaving for a measly 21.2% that were neutral, and only 2.8 actually were against it. And so that's certainly promising. Here are the percentages down here. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but wouldn't doubt it so far. And so cool, Benzinga, thanks for doing that for us. While this one from CBS was one of the biggest headlines we got this week, cannabis is in and alcohol is out. Now, is Gen Z driving the change in preference? Not nearly as much as legalization, because obviously prohibition was dumb, and people from every generation have always smoked cannabis, though we love that their attitude has helped normalizing it, as a New Frontier Data survey from 2022 found that 69% of people aged 18 to 24 prefer cannabis to alcohol, and for example, it's becoming more common to actually use cannabis in work versus drinking and working. Here we smoke because it enhances our work. That's our secret sauce, talking about a shared workspace in New York. And so if I think of personal experience, my first marketing job, we would drink on Fridays, and I would get so unproductive. Versus if I consume cannabis and go about my day, you wouldn't even notice. And so, to each and everyone's own right, but I invite you to pause and read if you'd like to learn more. Otherwise, links will be in the comments. But love to see the younger generation seeing the plant for what it is, and it's just the older people dumbed down by the past propaganda that need to come around as we re-educate them. Well, from the Dales report, though, so you're saying the cannabis investment thesis is fully intact? Fantastic, pretty much. And I say this just as a reminder, we got to focus on what the businesses that we're invested in are doing on the ground to prepare for when this eventual big shift happens and the floodgates open, because when you look at the science, cannabis clearly medicine. When you look at consumer trends, people want to vote for cannabis with their dollars legally, and now we're seeing that between 92 and 2022, the number of self-reported cannabis users grew 20-fold, and I imagine this is, again, conservative and probably less than the real number based on people not wanting to tell the truth because you could be criminalized. Not necessarily be criminalized for saying that you've ever smoked, but from 0.9 to 17.7, again, this is people just admitting it. And so for anyone that wants to say the thesis is out, yeah, again, this is just manipulation until the green light happens for institutional investors to get their money in, because you know they want to make money. They damn well do. And so with this one from Louis420, now, I thought this was a great post, but keep in mind this is speculation as he sort of backtracked from this. But so far, everything is playing out perfectly to get final rescheduling rule before the end of Biden's term, according to him. And so, again, this is speculative, and then he ends up saying that this is likely not the case. So you can pause to read if you're interested based on what he found previously. And then this is the calendar just to highlight apparently the schedule or the House calendar for the chambers in Congress. Now, this is another interesting thing to look at. May 24th could be an important deadline for rescheduling, but that's passed and maybe we didn't end up hitting it. All that to say is this was posted on May 21st, and then later that day, he ended up sharing this. Sorry, looks like I could be wrong on my assumption. So again, fair enough. Thanks for sharing your research, dude, because we appreciate it. Here's a CRS report saying the CRA, which is the Congressional Review Act, does not apply to proposed rules, only final rules. So this would mean the current Congress won't have the 60 days required to review the rule, and the next Congress gets 6 months to review. I don't know. Again, I'm just thinking out loud and wanting to share this with you. So if you know more about this, let me know in the comments. The May 22 deadline is subject to change because the House usually adds more legislative days. Yada, yada. Now, I think I just wanted to click on this one because it takes us down to him and someone else making comments. But yeah, just to make it clear, it's unlikely that rescheduling will be overturned by the CRA, which is a positive note. We're not expecting that. But look back review is triggered automatically. It would start in Jan 2025 for 6 months. So we get a definitive answer only in June 2025. Now, this is the first I'm hearing this. More worried about the process than the outcome. So let me know if you know more about this at all. But Blake Wheeler asked, it'd have to be a red sweep of all three for them to change anything, right? Simple majority is required in both houses to pass disapproval of the rule, and then POTUS can veto it. Congress can override the veto with a 2-3 vote. So yeah, so ideally we don't want a red wave completely then, if this is the case, but I don't know how true this is. So just wanting to share what Weed Street 420 has found on this day, because it's definitely good research. Now, this is an article from a law firm, I do believe, the DEA's rule to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3 process and timeline. Now, just wanted to bring you down to this main visual, because no one necessarily knows, right? Weed Street 420 could be right, he could be wrong. We were here when the OMB review was set to drop. Now the notice of proposed rulemaking was published in the Federal Register. Now we get the public comment period. And I'm thinking maybe he's doing a little bit too much thinking and we just got to trust the process and let it play out. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, but just wanted to share this. If anyone wanted to reference this article, of course, all these links will be in the comments. But with that, from Weed Street 420 as well, and this was the day before all of that, he did end up sharing, I hate when Twitter does this, the entire rescheduling process can absolutely be finalized before the election, right? So he's obviously just trying to find all the information he can to create as much of a clear picture for himself. There will be people who litigate on this, we know that, and it'll be a long process, but I believe that will occur while the industry is enjoying the status of Schedule 3. So let's stay optimistic. Now, he did not say where the source of this one is either, so unfortunately I don't have that to share with you, but so again, take this with a grain of salt. Looks like it's from an interview or chat with Senior VP from the Cannabis. And then so with that, from Do the Right Thing, he interrupted his ex-vacation to comment on this quote from the DOJ attorney in today's hearing, which was that U.S. MSOs versus DOJ case. Rescheduling could make it more likely that banks would be willing to work with state-licensed cannabis businesses. We love to hear that, and that's basically on the record in this court case. Also the plaintiffs and the Justice Department agree that it was irrational to classify cannabis under the strictest category, Schedule 1, especially when they had the studies in the 70s to say that it never belonged there. Such horseshit, which defines it as a highly restrictive drug with no currently accepted medical use. And so are they going to refund 280E payments? That's a lot to ask and likely wishful thinking. I'd say probably not. But again, the fact that these comments are on the record, definitely promising for us. And so just more on that court case that started on the 22nd. Cannabis companies square off in federal court with DOJ over cannabis prohibition, as first oral arguments were heard in a high-profile case this past week that could invalidate prohibition and the Schedule 1 classification altogether, were held on Wednesday. And so obviously this is a huge deal. It's an ongoing case though, so we will update you. And while I'm working during the week, I'm not really able to keep a close eye on this, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm trusting that they're making the right arguments. They did get one of the best lawyers in the game, David Boies, who has a great public track record. And I mean, this is certainly not a tough case to win when you have the HHS doc that admitted that cannabis is a medicine. So no reason it shouldn't stay, or it should stay in the Schedule 1 classification at all. Obviously, it should come out completely, but we'll take Schedule 3 better than nothing, because the status quo is certainly not helping anyone. Not in the cannabis industry, not anyone that needs the medicine. While intrastate versus interstate, not sure why they're focusing on this argument, but it seems like they are while rescheduling. Got to trust the process, and since we're on the right side of history and following the science, if you're in any way still skeptical that this state-led growth story is not happening, and that this industry, like a snowball rolling down a hill, gaining momentum, is not going to be a behemoth, especially when the handcuffs are taken off and the discrimination ends and they stop paying 280E tax, I mean, sorry, you're just focusing on the wrong things. As legal cannabis in the U.S. is now a bigger industry by sales than beef, per MJBizDaily. And you can certainly imagine that a large percentage of U.S. Postal Service sales is related to cannabis. And so we continue to watch this chug along, but just imagine once Schedule 3 moves, And once we get institutional investment actually allowed to come in and eventual uplisting, holy crap, we're here for that day, folks. And with that, from Do the Right Thing, that hemp amendment ended up passing this past week. And so keep in mind, it's just the House committee markup. It's not House or Senate or anything like that combined. It's going to be a lot of time until this bill actually gets reconciled and then can come into effect. And this is the amendment that would close that loophole in the Farm Bill. And so it would make it illegal again to sell that hemp-derived synthetic THC through gas stations. That's apparently been happening in states throughout the country. Now, is that product any good compared to the actual plant? I don't know. I've never tried it. I can't imagine it is. And I do believe that if this amendment actually passes and goes into effect next year, that would be a massive win for the legal cannabis industry. And for anyone that says, oh, well, that's not a win for cannabis because then you're not getting access to the plant, I don't know if the synthetic THC is doing anyone any good. Let me know in the comments if it is. I can't imagine it's as good as the actual plant, but I think we would certainly want more of the actual plant getting out there. And obviously, we have skin in the game. There's an incentive for us to want to see the legal industry succeed for many reasons. Legalization causes opioid overdoses to go down by 25%. Legal jobs, legal tax revenue, all that revenue being put back in the right places, let alone safer access to, a non-addictive medicinal alternative. Many, many good reasons why we would want to at least support the legal industry. But hey, Farm Bill amendment would ban all hemp-derived THC, close THCA loophole. And so do we feel very bad about this? I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. It seems to just be happening. And under one proposed amendment filed Wednesday ahead of a key hearing on Thursday, all ingestible hemp products with any level of THC would be federally banned, warned the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, a Washington, D.C. based lobbying group. And so the $1.5 trillion farm bill, already nearly 9 months overdue, is scheduled for a markup hearing in the House Committee on Agriculture on Thursday. Among that many points of contention in the sprawling bill, which Congress normally updates every 5 years, is what to do with the burgeoning domestic market in hemp-derived cannabinoids, estimated to be worth as much as $28 billion. And so again, I've never tried this product. I don't plan on it. I can't imagine it's as good as the real thing, but please do let me know in the comments what your take is on that, because I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, it's just that's my thoughts. But apparently the amendment did pass. So all these links as well in the comments. Well, from Dennis Rudolph, just sharing that asset-light expansion into $8 billion German market adds potential to this cannabis stock on the NASDAQ. Now they're talking about a company called Intercure. I'm focusing on less on the company in this. This is from Pablo Zuanic as well, but more on one point that we're going to get to on the last slide. So if any of you are interested in Intercure, again, this is not a promotion for them. I'm just sharing what Dennis Rudolph shared, mostly about the opportunity in Germany. But more information here on that. Main thing, though, is with MMJ now removed from the narcotics list, Zuanic expects prescribing cannabis to ramp up. He conservatively estimates that if we assume 1% population penetration by the end of 2025 and $200 a month spent, that could be an annual run rate of almost $2 billion thus far. Furthermore, if we consider 3 to 4% penetration, the market could reach $6 to $8 billion. So it just depends, how effectively these doctors now market this new socially acceptable medicine in Germany. And so last one with that from Pablo Zuanic, German cannabis market, the first 45 days of Pillar 1 reform. We've got a YouTube video and a podcast link if you're interested. So these links will be in the comments. But with that, on to some studies. So how is the plant helping? From American Society for Microbiology, this one from May 22nd, fairly fresh off the press, exploring the versatile roles of the endocannabinoid system and phytocannabinoids in modulating bacterial infections. And it's fascinating. Whenever I talk to people and ask them if they've ever heard of the endocannabinoid system, I get an overwhelming no. That is wild to me. And so if you're not aware, the endocannabinoid system, initially identified in all mammals, I believe, for its role in maintaining homeostasis, particularly in regulating brain function, certainly an important system most people should know about, has evolved into a complex orchestrator influencing various psychological processes beyond its original association with the nervous system. So more here if you want to pause to read the whole thing, but just figured the highlight from this report, the ECS extends its influence far beyond its initial discovery, emerging as a promising therapeutic target across a spectrum of medical conditions encompassing bacterial infections, dysbiosis, and sepsis. This review comprehensively explores the complex roles of the endocannabinoid system in the modulation of bacteria, the host response to bacterial infections, and the dynamics of the microbiome. So special emphasis is placed on the roles of cannabinoid receptor types 1 and 2, whose signaling intricately influences immune cell function in microbe-host interactions. And so, of course, full link in the comments if you wanted to go through that. But fascinating findings, why we ought to deschedule outright, while from Science Direct, Cannabinoid prevents LPS-induced inflammation by inhibiting yada yada and doing yada yada via yada yada. And so this one is from the future, July 2024. Very technical, but main thing I seem to get out of it is that it helps with inflammation, which we've seen from many studies in the past. And if inflammation seems to be a critical player in the pathogenesis of diverse neurological disorders, having something that reduces inflammation is a no-brainer, right? And so our results highlight the specific components responsible for the potential therapeutic applications of CBD on neuroinflammatory conditions. More reason for us to be studying. While from preprints.org, prospective analysis of cannabidiol's effectiveness in post-exercise recovery, an integrative systemic review on research agenda. Now, this one's not peer-reviewed. Who really cares? But CBD demonstrated potentially beneficial properties for athlete recovery, such as anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, anxiolytic, and analgesic effects with doses ranging from 5 to 600 milligrams administered orally, intravenously, and via other routes. However, rigorous confirmatory research specifically in athlete populations is lacking. Hence, deschedule so we can get more research. While CBD appears promising after facilitating recovery and performance optimization, further randomized placebo-controlled trials are needed to test the acute and chronic effects of different CBD dosing regimens in athletes. Basically, we should have CBD tests running through the NFL, the NHL, and the NBA. And imagine we see these leagues just get that much better quality because these athletes are treating themselves better and therefore performing better. That would be sick. And as always, links in the comments. Well, last one from StratCan out of Canada is apparently hospital visits for cannabis among older Ontarians were increasing even before legalization. Quite a misleading headline because from, say, 2016 to 2018, we had illegal cannabis dispensaries everywhere that you could just go to and buy weed from. Similar to how today in Ottawa and a lot of Canada, we have shroom shops, so you can just go buy shrooms. And so that's likely why this number was going up, because cannabis was becoming more and more normalized. And so more old people were likely trying it as an alternative to what they're used to. Now, funny enough, though, is that throughout or over time, the education and whatnot, from 2021 to 2022, it's actually gone down. And I kind of expect this to continue to go down over time. But main thing is older people going to the hospital. I'm sure they go once and then they're like, well, cannabis isn't a poison. I'm not in danger. Next time, just go to bed, right? And so it's more of just having to re-educate the population and, unsuspecting first-time cannabis users freaking out a little bit more, not having someone that's used it be there to keep them in check, and now they're just wasting our taxpayer dollars, really. It increased to just $375, $392, and $462 in 2019 before declining to $404. And so fair to say that with actual legalization and not these fake illegal shops before legalization, I think that this number can probably go down over time as we just educate people too, and less people waste our tax dollars by freaking out for no reason when they're stoned. And so on to state sales from Greenway Magazine. April cannabis sales follow a similar pattern in Missouri. This one from May 16th. Little old, but I did find it. As in April 2024, Missouri's legal cannabis sales totaled $120.10 million, a little bit down from March, despite having 420, but to be expected as March is that big month, usually again to start the year, comprising of $15.5 million from Med and $104.6 million from Rec. So love to see that. More here if you wanted to pause to read about Missouri. While apparently there was a tech glitch on 420 that caused Missouri's cannabis businesses to lose sales, I missed this from last month, but I found it when I was trying to look. So it's the second year in a row that sales surge caused the system to crash, but they wouldn't have had a legal market in the year prior, so that's likely why this one might have cost some people some money. But it seems like causing one company to lose an estimated $200K, yikes, that sucks. So more here if you just wanted to pause to read the story. While from New Cannabis Ventures, Michigan cannabis sales slow in April. And so while I do believe I shared a breakdown of how 4 months in Michigan sales are already up 21% year over year, their sales for April fell from March, again to be expected, but still massive numbers at $278.6 million. They fell 3.6 sequentially, still up 13.2% from the past year. And so here's the breakdown. No one's buying med anymore because cannabis is medicine and you just access your medicine through the dispensary. Can't wait for the rest of the world to figure that out. And then a breakdown here for anyone that's interested. While seeing the price go down for consumers. Consumers love that, yet they're buying more and more cannabis as we're seeing sales continue to rise. What a fascinating market and case study to have as a reference, and that is Michigan. And so with that, from New Mexico, looking at April 2024 sales data, adult use sales was 38.2 million, med sales was 12.8 million, for total sales of 51.1 million on over 1.1 million transactions. And then the all-time sales data here for New Mexico, if you're interested. While looking through it, basically, again, a little bit lower in total for March, but still quite high, thanks to 420, I imagine, in that month. While on to MSO news, only one from Curaleaf this past week celebrates Miami North Biscayne dispensary opening, giving it their 62nd location in Florida and 146th dispensary nationwide. So good on Curaleaf for continuing to focus on what they can control, keep their head down, and open more dispensaries while it's cheap to do so before adult use flips in Florida. From Canna Investments, this was from a Green Market Report article, Minnesota lawmakers greenlight new cannabis business rules. How do I close this? Either way, among the bill's highlights, though, still won't go into effect until 2025, but this is what's going to be happening in Minnesota going forward. So you can pause to read if you're interested, but then just to jump back to this as it takes a snippet from that, absolutely massive opportunity for Green Thumb Industries and Goodness Growth as co-location at 8 current stores and will be vertical unlike most of the market. GTI just spent considerable capex on their facility expansion, and the start date is now early 2025, not late 2025, which is more promising. The state's 2 licensed medical cannabis businesses will be allowed to co-locate much of their medical operations and will also be allowed 1 retail shop per each of Minnesota's 8 congressional districts. So you'd love to see that. And just wondering if there is a date for when it'll officially start. Just early. So no official date. Well, social equity. We saw from that article last week that they're selling people false dreams. And so good luck to those social equity applicants in Minnesota. I don't know why I said that so weird in Minnesota. Hopefully they don't fuck you quite as hard as they did in New York. While, again, can't believe that still not updated for Illinois. I want to share the sales data with you, but still not ready. So maybe tomorrow it'll be there. While out of New York, hey, we're at least seeing them cracking down until Hochul and all those idiots are just removed and replaced with more competent individuals. We don't have much faith in New York. But apparently Central New York what just happened to the title? Weed shop's owner fined $15.2 million by state after ignoring orders to stop sales. And so, well, I've been saying, hey, you might as well just, not go the legal route and go the illicit route because you're going to pay less of a fine. Well, now that they're finally cracking down, yikes. Hopefully he saved up some money, but definitely good to see this happen because this is really going to be the only way to reduce the illicit proliferation that ultimately the Office of Cannabis Management in New York allowed in the first place. But so pause to read here if you are interested. Not going to spend too much time on the story, but we will likely be seeing more of this if this is any sort of precedent. While from Benzinga, exclusive investment by multinational industries in the cannabis industry will forever change cannabis, warns expert, of course. Obviously, this comes after the announcement from President Biden himself and the White House to reschedule cannabis from 1 to 3. So folks, don't get too paranoid. It's happening, citing past injustices and medical benefits, while potential financial, regulatory, and industry transformation implications to be discussed at upcoming event. Now, just think of this as once it moves from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, you can have a big Constellation Brands invest and inject $4 billion into, let's say, into an MSO, much like they did in Canopy in 2018. Now, will it play out exactly like that? I don't know, but all it takes is the first one, and that, and we're off to the races, right? So more here if you wanted to pause to read. Again, take this with a grain of salt, though, as it's just someone's opinion ultimately. But the new regulatory environment, we don't know, it's out of our control, but whatever happens over the next 6 to 12 months, whether it paves way for uplisting or not, we will certainly see some big industries want to make some investments once they actually can. And so from MSOS, for anyone that's interested in which hedge funds have exposure in MSOS, increasing or decreasing their positions, this is from fintel.io, so thanks for sharing. 13 Fs filed with last week's deadline. Same top holders, notably Susquehanna and Anson, reduced their MSOS positions by 60% and 28% respectively. That might explain it. Certainly not retail selling, but this is the link here if anyone's interested in going through that sort of stuff. I'm more of just the follow the state-led growth story and the sales numbers on the ground, and just know that in time, I think this is from Ben Graham, maybe Warren Buffett, but the market is a voting machine in the short term. In the long term, it's a weighing machine. I certainly know that these companies are going to see the valuations that they should be at some point in time. Again, once we go through all these dominoes, the industry gets normalized and the discrimination finally ends. But this is that link for more detail on the ETF if anyone wants to go through that. I've never really even checked this out before, but certainly a cool resource for anyone that wants to learn more about it. While looking at shortdata.ca, straight to the larger short positions and then straight to the CSE. And we can see some decreases in MSOs while certain increases in others like goodness growth. And so it's fair to say that until we can uplist, sadly, we're at the mercy of what these hedge funds can do that's, say, legal in Canada. And that's really until we get the Garland or Cole Memo 2.0 that will allow institutional capital to flow in without fear of federal overhang, consequence, or repercussion. And that document would be in writing kind of the safety they need to get in. And we hope that once they do that, they're going to burn the hell out of these shorts. And then likely we'll see these shorts flip long somehow, however they do that. But we're kind of at their mercy until then. And so I'm just going to try and accumulate more when I get a bit more cash if I can. I'm currently in between switching jobs at the moment, but I'm switching one because I kind of got a promotion to go elsewhere, so why not? But hey, at least that's my plan. Of course, plan accordingly for your own situation, but I'm going to keep trying to accumulate because I do not believe this is going to last forever. I could be wrong, but that's just me. And lastly, from Do the Right Thing, just to highlight, from May 24th, posted as of yesterday, he cites this great piece from the Star Tribune, a Q&A with Biden's drug policy chief, Rahul Gupta, on rescheduling cannabis. And while the fact that we're not super rich yet, and I'm sure that's frustrating some people thinking that it's going to happen overnight and that are very, very impatient. Look, I know we've been burned for 4 years, but I do think what they're working on here is a very, very big deal, and it's going to be bigger than we could even comprehend or imagine. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments. But one last quote from this article. Do you see Schedule 3 as a green or maybe yellow light for banks and investors and card processors to get involved in state legal cannabis markets? We do know the drugs that are Schedule 3 are in legitimate interstate commerce within the federal system, according to the Biden admin right now. And so the focus for the president has been making sure Americans are able to get the help they need, no matter where they live, and on the other side, making sure we're not harming people. And I mean, the biggest public health victory the Biden admin can get would be to end prohibition, of course, and get more Americans access to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative. And so all we can do is wait for time to unfold and try to enjoy ourselves in the meantime. And that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.